Hello and welcome. I'm Exolite and this is my channel. Today we're going to talk about an unexplained disappearance. A disappearance without a trace. Now, this disappearance was touched on during another video I made. The other video involved Connie Johnson, and the reason this particular person was touched on was because they both disappeared on the same day in a relatively close proximity to each other. Now, I didn't go in as deep with the disappearance of Terrence Woods because the video was about Connie Johnson. Another strange aspect of this was that 2 days later, another person, Jose Mendez Morales, also disappeared without a trace. But today we're going to concentrate on Terrence Woods. This is a very strange story, and as you know, a lot of the missing without a trace stories are odd, complicated, and mysterious. This one is everything wrapped up. It is weird. It is something that can't be explained. It is thought to be possibly paranormal. Some people think it was a sudden mental illness that just appeared out of nowhere. So you sit back and you listen, and you tell me, what do you think happened to Terrence Woods? Before we get started, I'd like to thank thestrangeoutdoors.com for letting me tell this story to you. On October 5th, 2018, the 27-year-old Terrence Woods was a freelance filmmaker, and he was working with a production company that was filming a reality show at Penman Mine in western Idaho. While the crew was wrapping up, Terrence jumped off a cliff and sprinted into the thick mountain forest, stunning the entire crew. Before anyone could even respond, Terrence had disappeared without a trace. On that same day, Connie Johnson disappeared in a strange circumstance from Fog Mountain in Idaho, which was about 56 miles to the north. Also, on Sunday, October 7th, at approximately 5:30 p.m., the Idaho County Sheriff's Office was advised of another missing person, 42-year-old Jose Mendez Morales of Tacoma, Washington. He left his residence and was going to Elk City, Idaho. Jose checked in with his family from Grangeville on September 25th, and no one has heard from him ever since. He would normally check in every few days. Jose is believed to be driving a red and white Ford F-250 with a Washington license plate A84361P. Penman Mine is located in the Oro Grande area, which is part of the larger Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest. It is in Idaho County. It is mountainous. It's 8,500 square miles in a region of western Idaho. Nez Perce is a 2,224,091 acre U.S. national forest located in west central Idaho and is made up of 4 separate wilderness areas. The terrain is very mountainous in the 5,000 to 7,000 range, and it is thick with multi-year deadfalls of large trees, which makes traveling by foot difficult in some areas. If you're not familiar with what deadfall is, it is when dead trees fall, and over the years, other trees fall on them, leaves fall, and so in some places you're not walking on the actual forest floor. You could be walking on feet worth of dead trees, and it makes it difficult and dangerous to walk through those areas. Terrence grew up in Capitol Heights, Maryland with his parents and 3 siblings, and he was a graduate of the University of Maryland. He lived in London for several years, attending the American International University before moving back to the United States in 2018. He was an experienced journalist who had traveled the world working on documentaries and television shows, often working in tough situations while filming. His father said that he had no history of panic attacks, depression, or psychiatric issues. He, for all intents and purposes, was prepared for this wilderness shoot. His parents were given his backpack that he had left at the site. Inside it were a couple of camera bags, batteries, Sharpie pens, over-the-counter painkillers, some cough drops, hand cream, an iPhone charger, and a 3-inch folding tactical knife, and a stun gun. He had been on several different rugged wilderness shoots prior to this, including Turkey and Alaska. So he had experience in the backcountry and this section of Idaho, but never in the location of the mine. His friends claimed that he didn't really want to go on this trip, based on text messages that he sent before he left. Friends weren't shocked by the comments, but they did think it was unusual after the fact. They said that his behavior on the shoot didn't match what he was like in his normal life. Next, I'm going to present to you the events in chronological order. In fall of 2018, Terrence got a freelance job working for London-based Raw TV, the production company for the popular Discovery Channel show Gold Rush. The shoot required that Terrence be out in the western United States, specifically Montana and Idaho, for several weeks, starting on October 1st, 2018, and concluding in the second week of November. They were making a TV series about an abandoned gold mine, which is called the Penman Mine, and it is at an elevation of about 6,000 feet. It's located in the Aurora Grande area of the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest, and including Terrence, the crew consisted of 12 people. On September 30th, 2018, Terrence Sr. dropped Terrence off at the airport in Maryland, and this would be the last time that he would ever see his son again. On October 1st, 2018 to October 5th, 2018, from landing at the airport to Friday morning, 10:05, Terrence was in Montana. During this time, Terrence was in good spirits. He had been texting his dad pictures of the scenery and telling him that everything was going great. It was perfectly fine. At 10:58 p.m. Idaho time, on the 4th of October, which was a Thursday, it was 7:58 p.m. Maryland time, Terrence sent his dad a text. The text read, "Hey Dad, just got to the hotel in Idaho." At 12:58 a.m. Idaho time, on 10/5/18, early Friday morning, 9:58 p.m. Maryland time, Terrence texted his father a video of a serene river cutting its way through a rocky canyon. The text had no locator or words and clues. Later, during an investigation by a Washington, D.C. news crew, A reporter who saw the video remarked that it seemed creepy and foreboding to her. At 3 a.m. Idaho time, 10/5/18, which was 12 a.m. Maryland time, Terrence called his dad and told him that he'd made it and he was fine. There was not much more said, and his dad said that they would talk later in the day. The film crew was using Elk City, Idaho as a base of operation. At 5:44 a.m. Idaho time, Terrence sent a text to his dad again and said, "I'm coming home on Wednesday the 10th, October 10th, 2018. This would be cutting the trip short by several weeks, something Terrence had never done before. Terrence was supposed to be in Idaho working on the documentary until mid-November. At 3 p.m. Idaho time on 10/5/18, Terrence's father sent Terrence a text, but the crew was already in the middle of its all-day shoot in a remote area a few hours from the hotel, and they didn't have any cell service. Terrence Sr. isn't sure that Terrence ever saw that text. October 5th, 2018, late afternoon, early evening, the crew spent the day filming in the mountainous area of Penman Mine. What happened next is unexplainable. According to the on-site production manager, Simon, who later recalls what happened to Terrence Sr. So, this is the conversation that Simon relayed to Terrence Sr. He said, "So we were finishing up for the day, and your son was talking to one of the miners. I was in one of the vehicles doing some work when your son told the miner that he had to go relieve himself. Something told me, kind of like a gut feeling, to look over near the cliff that your son was at. And when I looked over, all I saw was the radio lying on the ground. I originally thought your son fell off the cliff, so I leaped out of the vehicle and ran over there immediately. To my shock, your son was already 15 feet down the cliff, running like a hare. I've never seen anyone run that fast. At that point, I yelled to the crew to get in a vehicle and go to the main road. I proceeded down the cliff after your son, but he kept running. Due to my professional SAR training, I stopped running after him out of fear that he would be further scared. So I went back topside, and the crew hadn't found your son on the main road. At this point, we went and found the first house with a phone and reported your son missing. A local woman from Elk City that was with the film crew, her name was Cherie, eventually corroborated the story that Simon told, and local law enforcement stated that she was a very reliable witness. Terrence was reportedly acting strangely and was noticeably quiet that day. It is also reported that his cell phone was with him at the time that he ran into the wilderness. At 6:41 p.m., October 5th, the 911 call log transcript from the Idaho County Sheriff's Office reads as this: "Advise that a male, Terrence Woods, 27, from London, works for a TV company who is creating a movie in the area of Penman Mine. Never been in the woods. No guns. Terrence has been having a really hard time emotionally and had a mental breakdown earlier in the day. Dark complexion and light clothes. Terrence is not going to respond back. Responders per reporter. Terrence does not have communication. There are people searching for him now." On October 6th, Saturday morning, Simon called Terrence Sr. to tell him that his son was missing. But in addition to the detailed account of what happened to Terrence Jr., he mentioned some issues that he had had with Terrence leading up to his disappearance. Simon said this: "Terrence came highly recommended to us and was our first pick. But when I met your son, he didn't live up to my standards. Well, I asked him to do different things, and he didn't know what to do. He said there were other things your son did not do that I also didn't like. From October 5th to October 11th, a massive search and rescue operation involving multiple counties and law enforcement agencies kicked off. Search crews on ATVs circled the area. Multiple dog teams set out in the search area, and a helicopter with heat-sensing technology was in the air. There was also a crew on horseback. But search conditions were extremely difficult due to the rugged terrain. One searcher commented, "You couldn't even walk there. All those downed trees and brush." By midweek, heavy rain and snow in the high mountains hampered the helicopter search. After 7 days of searching, the Idaho County Sheriff's Department started to scale the search back on October 11th after nothing had been found regarding Terrence. It was reported that at some point during the search, law enforcement officials went to Terrence's room to make sure that it was locked. However, people from the crew had already been in his room to supposedly get articles of clothing for the tracking dogs. Oddly, it was reported by the news media that law enforcement never asked for Terrence's cell phone records and never did a search history of Terrence's laptop. Both of these things would have required going to a judge and getting a subpoena, which would require evidence of a crime or that he was endangered, something that should have been easily done. However, law enforcement officials concluded that the evidence showed Terrence intended to disappear. What evidence? We don't know. Many people were shocked that they had not gotten the subpoena. People familiar with cases like this said that it would not have been hard to get the proper authority to do those searches, and that it should have been done. In an interview with the local sheriff, it said that the guys working the SAR operation will tell you that Terrence was not in this area, the area that we searched. They determined that he had slid down the bank and made it to the road. After that, they don't know where he might have gone. They said if he had been injured or hurt in some way, they would have found him. And that if he had done something fatal, the dogs would have found him. However, another officer said that he would have been shocked if he could have gotten out of that area because the forest floor is so thick with the deadfall. The officer described it as trying to run through giant pickup sticks, with some parts so thick with deadfall that your feet would never touch the ground. Search teams also found no footprints in the fresh snow, with no indication whatsoever that Terrence was ever there. Raw TV said that we can confirm that Terrence Woods, a member of one of our production teams, went missing on Friday, October 5th in the Aurora Grande Nez Perce National Forest, Idaho. The Idaho County Sheriff's Office was immediately informed, and they implemented a search and rescue operation. Mr. Woods is well liked, valued, and a member of the production team, and we have been working closely with the Sheriff's Office, which has been leading this search. Mr. Woods' family are in direct contact with the Sheriff's Office. All inquiries regarding the status of this search should be directed to the Idaho County Sheriff's Office. So, what does law enforcement think or say happened? Well, they say that it's possible that he had a panic attack or some sort of mental breakdown. But there are conflicting reports about who said this. Some reports said that he had to be detained before he disappeared, but later accounts said that it was a debriefing on the wildlife in the area. He wasn't detained. Law enforcement said he wanted to get lost. What is that based on? Well, they haven't said. And if they haven't seen his text messages or his computer searches, then what are they basing that on? In an interview, the sheriff said that there are about 2 people per square mile and 8,500 square miles, so it's only about 16,000 people total. It's a very large, open, unpopulated area where you could go missing very easily. So what does his family and friends think happened? Well, the parents suspect foul play, especially as the production crew and the sheriff's office were very unhelpful. They think he was in an uncomfortable situation and that he was trying to get away. His parents hinted that perhaps race played a role. His father went on a radio station and this topic came up. The detective on the case responded via email explicitly denying race played any role in their investigation of Terrence. The detective further stated that they were no longer going to communicate with Mr. Woods. Terrence Woods' older sister, Sharnia Tisdale, says that her brother is a bright man who is ambitious and has a kind and loving heart, and that the activity Idaho County Police described is completely out of the ordinary. She's quoted as saying, "I talked to him before he went out there, and he seemed fine. He was going to go and do a job with the film crew. He was going to come home. Nothing abnormal. He wasn't acting different. We talk all the time. He is not the type of person that would just run off or do anything like this, so it seems unusual to me, but I wasn't there, so I can only go by what they are saying. He's traveled around the world. He really likes to do TV. He's a loving person and caring and an all-around good person." So here's some scenarios that have been presented. 1. Was he suicidal or had a mental breakdown? Terrence mentioned in his journal the Great Reset, where he said that he was tired of traveling and was ready to head back home and settle down. Several entries in his journal about being tired of London life and all of the travel. Law enforcement dismissed the journal as indecipherable rants and gave it back to his parents. Number 2, drug use? Well, there's no mention of any of this in the research or the reporting. Number 3, afraid of a crew member? Based on possible texts to his dad. Number 4, exposure or terminal burrowing. It would absolutely be too cold at night without gear in October. Perhaps he had gone to kill himself. Maybe he changed his mind, but was lost and succumbed to the elements. Most people have heard about paradoxical undressing, but a common problem for searchers is the fact that when people are hurt or about to die, they will almost always burrow or hunker down into a hard-to-see place, and it's called terminal burrowing. Number 5, an animal attack. Number 6, murder by one of the crew. Due to the high-profile nature of the show, this seems unlikely. Number 7, call of the void. This is very interesting to me because I have this. It is also known as high place phenomenon, HPP, which is why I will not stand on a bridge or anything high, or go on a ride that goes high. Since people often feel it when standing somewhere high up, you could also experience this type of impulse when doing other things that are involved in a high risk or that are dangerous. For example, the call of the void can involve thoughts or urges to jerk the steering wheel and turn into oncoming traffic while driving, to jump into very deep water from a boat or a bridge, to stand on a train or subway track, or to jump in front of a train, to cut yourself when holding a knife or other sharp objects. When these urges come up, most people quickly counter them. You tell yourself you'd never do that. You know what would happen in any of those scenarios, but you still think about doing it, however quickly the thought passes. And for me personally, I've been in situations where I have panicked and done something really stupid. Like, I was riding a horse once, my foot got caught in the stirrup, the saddle slid sideways. Even though I knew my foot was in the stirrup, I decided to jump off the horse and ended up being dragged down a gravel road for about a quarter of a mile. Not something that most people would choose to do. Number 8, panic in the woods. According to the blog, The Paranormal Guide, panic in the woods has been associated with the pagan god Pan, protector of wild places, whose unseen presence inspires causeless terror. Victims experience an overwhelming feeling of paranoia, such as a sinister force nearby and a sense of imminent danger. This usually leads the person to flee the area, desperately seeking out civilization. One curiously common characteristic of panic is that people often describe that the woodlands will go completely silent, deafening the witness before the loud pitch sound sets in a few moments later. Deafening silence and paranoia in the woods are related to stories of the cryptids, the goat man, and another group of paranormal monsters known as skinwalkers. At least one article written on the phenomenon has been written by 14 Times Magazine by Patrick Harper, titled Landscapes of Panic. This behavior is a common post on many paranormal forums and message boards. And is that what happened to him? Is that why he didn't act like he normally does? Why his personality seemed much different? Why he ran away in panic? Go ahead and let me know your thoughts below. I'd appreciate it. Thank you for coming to my channel. If you would, please like this video. Also, if you'd like to be subscribed, please do so. It's totally free. Just one little click. And if you'd like to be notified when my content goes live, go ahead and ring that bell. Also, there will be a link below to my new merchandise. If you'd like to look through there, that would be fun, and I'd appreciate it. Good night.